Welcome to the Blue Collar Millionaire Show. I am your host, Chad Hufford, and this is the podcast where we celebrate the unsung heroes of the working world. Each week, we dive into the incredible stories of honest, hardworking folks who have found financial success through grit, determination, and good old-fashioned elbow grease. So if you're ready to be inspired and learn how to turn your hard work into your own success story, you're in the right place. This is the Blue Collar Millionaire Show. Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Millionaire Show, where we empower regular, everyday people to do extraordinary things through discipline and patience and perseverance. And I've got a good friend with me, Chris Marchant, joining us, just coming up on 20 years with the fire department. And I was thinking about this coming into today. We've known each other almost 40 years.
It has been that long.
Which is crazy. Yeah. You think about it. So, half that time you've spent serving our community through the fire department, and, a lot of crazy adventures there, a lot of hard work, probably a lot of fun as well. Yeah. But I just want to, thank you for not only your service there, but for coming on and sharing some of your experiences with us.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited. So,
all right. Yeah. All right. Well, one of the things I wanted to touch on a little bit, you've always been very intentional. That's one of the reasons I want to have you on. Not that you've done everything perfect, but you've been very purposeful about the choices that you've made. And, starting us off, kind of talking about family and parenting and all that. Addie was born just a little bit before Bray, and so that you're oldest, and you guys had 5 kids, and all of our kids, all ages, are just like within a few months of each other. So our number 1, our number 2 is all the way down to number 5. Then we had our 6th, and I thought we were winning, and then you guys adopted, which I'm not sure if that's cheating.
That's kind of the trump card. Yeah. It's hard to beat.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at the rules. I couldn't quite tell. So I don't know if we're tied or if you're winning. But anyways, family's always been such a huge, important thing to you. So how do you balance living in the present? Obviously, you're planning for the future. You don't want to have to be a firefighter forever. It's hard on the body, hard on a lot of things. How do you balance being a husband and a father in the present and enjoying the moment without sacrificing for the future?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I've thought about that a lot, especially over the past couple of years with Addison. Like you said, 17. She's talking about college already, getting ready to move out. It's like, man, time went so fast. So balance, I found in the past, I tried to be very structured, very rigid. And my typical day is I get up in the morning and I've got my reading. I got my cup of coffee already set, ready to go. My running stuff's already laid out. And it's just kind of going through the day, things that I think will move me forward. But I found that I was so much in just as the doing and feeling like I got to check off all these boxes that I was missing time with my family. I got to get this done. I got to get this done. So balance has kind of been shifting a little bit, where it's not so much about the doing. It's about, like you were saying, just kind of being present and having grace for myself. So what that means for me is balance is kind of this perennial issue where it's ebbs and flows. And I get to be okay with things not looking a certain way, but keeping my priorities in line. Top 3 priorities are God number 1, wife number 2, kids number 3, and then it kind of goes down from there: work, health, all the other things. But setting time aside for me, so in the morning before kids get up, trying to work on those things, my time with reading, spending time with Kirsten, getting out and doing my runs or my workouts, and then just kind of being open to whatever happens after that, not trying to get so much accomplished, and getting to be present with my family, with my kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I just think of if we think of, this is kind of like a race metaphor. And I know you've done races in the past, Mount Marathon, others, but for somebody like yourself who's very competitive and driven, and I think a lot of folks listening, I think the tendency is to view certain things, whether it's retirement, whether it's kids going off to college, whatever, as finish lines, and you're trying to race to that line. what you're saying is, it's not that you're not running hard. You're
Right.
still intentional. You're still carving out time, but you're leaving openness so you can enjoy the journey along the way. Is that a fair assessment?
Totally. Yeah. And to your point, I could think of races, like you get to like a marathon, for example, I get to the end of a marathon, and that's been my goal, is to finish this race. I built up all this time, all this training to finish this race. I finished the race and it's like, that's it. I was kind of expecting this big grand moment. And what I've learned is the process of going up to that. And that's just a stepping stone, that end of that race. It was the process that's where I think the real joy and the fulfillment is found. Same thing with family, man. Just being present along the way, because once Addison does go to college, well, that is a goal of ours, we can continue moving forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think back to your point. So, yeah.
We had, when I was writing the book, that we were interviewing a bunch of people, mostly from the oil field for that. And one of the guys that we interviewed was mid 50s and doing great financially and had real estate, a lot of mutual funds, 401k, all these different things. And he said, asked him like what his regrets would be if you go back, not necessarily regrets, but what we go back if he had a chance to talk to his younger self, the beginning of his career. And he said, I would tell myself, you don't need to sacrifice so much. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, I've got more money than I ever thought was possible and nobody to share it with.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what you said, like being at the end of the race by yourself and being like, is this all there is?
Yep. Yeah, totally.
So now you guys are going to be on this run with family for a while now. Addison is close to moving the next chapter of her life, but we're both gonna have kids at the house for quite some time. But I've always admired, again, the intentionality you've had around family, and you have a job that takes you away from family for large periods of time. But you also have chunks of time with family as well. And when I've been around you guys, just the way that you connect with your kids has always resonated with me, because I think there's people that spend a lot of time around their kids, but their kids are on their devices. They're on their device. Like they're there, but they're not there. And do you, obviously stressful job, you guys have also a lot of irons in the fire outside of work. What do you do to combat the temptation to have your mind elsewhere, even when you're around the family, to be concerned with work or what just happened on the last shift? Or
that's kind of it seems like a wandering target for me. So there's a couple things that I've got. One thing is exercise. I've been on a streak now it's been over a year and a half now. I think I haven't missed a day where every morning before work, I go for a run, and it's just to get out some aggression, clear my head, kind of start the day right, and just kind of get things out on the table, I guess. When I come home from work, I found there was a season, man, I'd come home, and my drive home, I come from a very structured work environment, everything's set, very clean, and then going home to chaos. The dog's jumping on me. I've got groceries in my hand. Kids are wanting to give hugs, and I just lose it. And so what I found was getting to, when I come home, just recognizing that for one, but I get to choose the culture that's in my home, just in how I present myself in a lot of ways. So I would literally park at the bottom of my driveway and just take 5 minutes and just kind of like know what I'm expecting going into this, and then who I'm going to choose to be going into that home. And that has changed everything. Where before I'd go into the home and kids would start to argue and things were just kind of going chaotic. Like, what is going on? And it was me, just this, who I was being, bringing into the home. They could feel it. They could sense it. And now going back to what you're talking about, I get to go in there, and even if I've been up all night, I've had a rough call, whatever it is, that stuff's still very real. I don't just get to forget that and let it go and sweep it under the rug. I get to deal with it, but I also get to show up. I get to choose how I show up in my home. So I very intentionally say, this is who I'm going to be coming into the home, and I'm going to love on my kids. When my dog's jumping up on me, I'm going to be kind to her. I'm not going to kick her, and just be respectful, but choose that. And that has been a game changer in my home, and just the culture that you can just feel a different vibe. among the kids and even the dog. It's crazy. So
So you're creating a moment in between work and being home where there's a distinct transition. I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, putting words in your mouth. Let me know this is correct. But it's like you're giving yourself that moment to reflect, to center yourself, whatever that looks like. So you're not carrying the stress, the worries of what just happened or the day, which, I mean, it could have been just moments before. I mean, you could have been coming right from a hot call, but you're giving yourself that moment to recenter and present yourself to your family in such a way and creating that distinction.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, taking that time to set aside specifically where I get to, what am I feeling? What's going on inside of me? And just kind of work through that. Like I said, the exercise and even things like eating healthy make a huge difference for me. I can tell when I'm not eating clean, I start eating junk food, I just feel off. So it seems like a combination of things that all kind of help me, yeah, just kind of focus and be able to be fully present with my family.
Well, you mentioned exercise a couple times, and do you see that as a process, even though that's more your morning or your maybe your pre-work routine, your morning routine? So the moment to center yourself might be later. Does that help center you for the day?
Yeah.
You said, kind of release some of that stuff. You get out, you said aggression, it could be frustration, like all those different things. That's a part of that process too.
Huge. Yeah. Yeah. Just the time that I get to I've got no agenda, but just to go run for a certain amount of time. And it doesn't take a lot of like concentration. So I can process, think through things. And just the act of actually doing physical work is huge. I think that is so beneficial to all of us, and getting healthier. It affects all areas of our lives. It's not just that moment. It's not just my job. It is at home. It is in all areas of my life. Being physically fit makes a big difference in my mental health, my spiritual health, physical health, all those. So,
has that always been an important factor for you? I mean, you work in a job where we've talked about this before, just like sleep is just one example.
Yeah.
You're doing shift work. It disrupts sleep cycles. There's a lot of physical stress in the job. There's a lot of mental, emotional stress. And it takes its toll on people.
Yeah.
I think the first responders, the job ages people quickly. So was fitness something that you saw as, okay, I need to pay close attention to this because of the job, or was that more of a commitment that you had already made before starting on the department?
It actually happened during the job. Growing up, we played sports together, so it's one of those things where I was always pretty physically active between sports and getting outside, hiking, all that stuff. Stuff I took for granted. I was getting the benefits, but not really knowing the why behind it. It wasn't until, being on the fire department, I think it was like my 5th or 6th year into it, at one of the busiest houses in the city, and I could just feel it just grinding me down. And I wasn't setting aside time to work out. I felt like because we were running calls all the time, and then my days off, I was always so tired, I made excuses where it's like, it's not that important. And it wasn't until, like I said, the 5th or 6th year, I was like, something's got to change. And there's certain aspects I can control, some I can't. So when I'm at work, if you're up all night, that's just part of the job. You don't get to get sleep during that time. I'll try to make that up later, which making up for sleep, that's a whole nother thing, not really possible. But there are things I can control. So eating clean is a big one. And then, yes, working out. I made the conscious decision that this is something I'm going to start making a regular practice because I need it. I need it for my health, my family's health.
And obviously in that line of work, I mean, you don't know if you're going to have call to call to call all shift long,
right,
if you're going to get a night's sleep. But what I heard you say is you still had a plan for how you wanted this to go. Again, back to intentionality. You had a plan for how you were going to eat. And I mean, that you're sitting down to grab a meal, and then, you guys are running code to an emergency. So it doesn't always play out, oftentimes doesn't play out the way that you want it to. But what I heard is when it comes to your health, there's always excuses why you don't work out or shouldn't eat healthy, or why the donut over the broccoli, whatever.
Right.
But you went into the day with a plan, with a
Mhm.
structure for how you want it to go. And I guess the way I see that, Chris, is like you're happening to your day rather than just standing back and letting your day happen to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 And to your point, yes, the day is going to change. You can have a plan and things are going to happen. Life's going to happen, kids, whatever it is. And getting to be making adjustments to that, because I do believe there's opportunity in everything. You just got to find the good in it. But yeah, having those structures as far as, again, eating clean, exercising, being intentional towards those on a consistent basis, I think is key. Little disciplines every day compound over time, make a big difference.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that too. Is it's not running a marathon once, or
Right.
it's not eating vegetables for a weekend. Or it's the little things you do every day. And I think a big separator between people who, I was going to say, achieve their goals or successful, that means different things to different people, who really live a fulfilled and abundant life. The people who live in a state of abundance, I mean, way more than financial, they do consistently what most people do occasionally.
Yep. Yeah.
And like what I hear you saying, what I've seen in your life, because I know from knowing you for a very long time that this isn't just words. Like I know you've lived this out. And when it comes to your health, yeah, it doesn't always go the way that you plan, but you're always looking for opportunities to realign your day, your choices, your behavior with that goal of long-term health,
Yep.
rather than looking for excuses to not do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because excuses are everywhere. They're easy, right? And so often, like when my alarm goes off in the morning, I don't jump out of bed. I'm ready to go. So my alarm went off. All right. Some days I do. Some days are easier than others, but a lot of times it's a choice. And like you said, it's that choosing to be consistent, the little choices over time, and they do make a difference. They compound. And it's hard because we want results right away, right? Like that's just by nature, especially me. I want to see the results right away. But decisions I make today, even this morning, I made a decision knowing I may not ever see the results of it. Like it may not just manifest itself. Like I can say, bring it back to that specific point, or it could be 6 months, could be 6 years from now. Like sometimes it takes time, and just not being with that instant gratification in mind, but knowing we're over the long haul, just like investing, just wanting that money right away. It's not how it works. It's consistently investing over a long period of time and having a plan. That's how you're going to win. So,
Well, I was just thinking of, as you were saying that, Chris, it's like this Amazon mindset where it's one click, it shows up tomorrow, we don't have to pay for it till next year.
Yep.
I mean, it's the exact opposite of what you're talking about. And it's nothing against Amazon. They've figured out how to make money off of human weakness and proclivity towards instant gratification. But I think that is the natural tendency. But so many areas of our society, our culture have magnified that, hey, you can get what you want, how you want it right now, and you'll figure out the consequences or figure out how to pay for it in the future. And what you're saying is the exact opposite, is putting in the work, putting in the time and effort, making sacrifices, but really investing both financially and other ways, investing in the future version of yourself and your family.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. And I think part of it too, and I'm always figuring this out, is what is it that you want? Who is it that you want to be? And for me, I'm kind of in this season where I always thought I kind of knew, as we older, mature, life happens, we start to figure this stuff out more and more. So I'm always making adjustments for that and changing. But yeah, figuring out what would move me forward the most and executing that. And then if it works, great. If it doesn't, then I've learned something. Like I said, opportunity in everything, and continuing just to make those decisions to move forward.
You said something that is really critical. And I want to just go back to it just for our listeners. You said, who do I want to be? And I think, so a lot of folks that we talked to, including a call I just got earlier this morning, somebody who's getting ready to retire, and there's no real objectives, not even financial. So she knows when she wants to retire, but doesn't really know how much income they're going to need, doesn't know the ins and outs of even their day-to-day finances, much less what is she going to do with her extra time that she has now that she's not working. So I think very few people are missing strategic, meaningful objectives in their life that can be measured, like, financial success, even like health success, things like that. But the idea of who do you want to become? Like, who are you becoming?
Right. Yeah.
And I was just thinking of James Clear, every action you take is a vote for or against
Mm-hmm.
that future version.
Yep. Yeah.
But without being clear of, and this is obviously very philosophical. It's not, it's something that, you spend 3 minutes thinking about it, like,
Right.
okay, I know exactly who I want to be in 10 years, 15 years. But I think it's so critical finding those times of stillness to reflect on,
Mm-hmm.
what do I want my life to look like? Who's in that life? What does my house feel like when I step into the door 5, 10, 15 years from now? And who do I want to become?
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage our listeners to be thinking about that, because we talk about this all the time. Here is, money is just a tool. Money is a tool to build the life that you want. But we have to know, like, what is God calling us to do? What is meaningful to us?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. One other thing I want to thank you for, and it kind of goes back to something you mentioned earlier about hiking and things like that. And there was an incident, if we want to call it that, that happened 30 something years ago, 35, 36 years ago, long time ago. And we were climbing Near Point, our families. You might not even remember this, but it's something that's super crucial that has stuck out to me to this day. And we were probably about halfway up, and I'd never done Near Point. I think your dad had, and it's like 3,000.
Yeah.
It's not a huge mountain by any stretch, but we were about halfway up in this like blueberry patch. And Matt was there. Your little brother, a couple of my brothers and sisters were there, and we're stopping, just kind of hanging out. And then you and your dad and my dad went and climbed to the top, and I stayed behind. And I remember in that moment, like as you guys were walking off, I remember regretting it. Like I had instant regret. I was like, I should be with them. And you guys went to the top, you're rolling rocks down the side of the hill and all that stuff, which I've done since then. But here's where I want to bring it though, is that has been a warning and a metaphor for my life. Because like I said, it was instant regret. And what I realized, even though I didn't have maybe words around it, is I stayed in a comfort zone rather than continuing to climb the mountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, you might even remember that, but for me, it's so vivid. And it's something that I have used to remind myself, like, I've got to be careful. Like, yeah, you got to take breaks in life, but I didn't take a break. I stopped climbing. That was as high as I made it that day on the mountain. And I just want to thank you for that example, because it's a very vivid picture of what life often looks like. And you continue to climb the mountain. And I think that that's a great metaphor for life, because mountains aren't always up. You got to cross valleys to keep climbing. It's hard work. It's mundane. It can feel like a drudgery. Sometimes it's one foot in front of the other. But you've encouraged me to avoid the comfort zone and to keep climbing.
Man, I appreciate you saying that. So I don't remember that specific case. I do remember lots of hikes with you guys, but that's exactly what we're talking about. There's opportunity in everything. So while you may have chosen at that time not to, you remember that moment. You stick out to that. That stuck out to you. Now you get to use that moving forward in different circumstances of life, and to not be comfortable, right? Because I know I've made a lot of choices where I choose to be comfortable, whether it's fear or whatever it is, and I have regret, right? But yes, it's the little steps all the time. And kind of one thing you mentioned earlier with goals, if you have a goal, say it's $1 million, you want $1 million in the bank, great goal. But there's something deeper to that, right? There's always something deeper. And this is figuring out who you are and your why behind it. Maybe that's because you want $1 million because you want to be able to have security. Maybe it's because you want to take your grandkids on vacation because you value family time. But yeah, going back to that and just knowing who you want to be and your why, I think helps in those moments of wanting to stay comfortable and fear. For me personally, having that why, when fear comes up, because it always does, and want to be comfortable, I can feed back on that and keep taking those steps, like you said, one step at a time. Because you've talked me off the cliff several times. Several times in finances, I remember calling you. You're like, Chad, should I go to stable assets? You're like, nope, here's why. And you had a plan, one step at a time. And I'm so thankful you did as a coach, because that's been huge in not losing in those, not selling and not losing those games.
And continue to climb the mountain.
Right? Yeah, one step at a time.
Climb back up when you find yourself in the valley. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And just, I appreciate that. But I appreciate the fact that we've been able to sharpen each other over the years and encourage each other. And I think there's just so many valuable takeaways from what we've talked about. And we'll do another episode, teasing out some of the things that you and I talked about. But really appreciate you taking time to be here to share with us and just give us a glimpse inside Chris Marchant and the purpose and intentionality behind what you do.
I know. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Millionaire Show. We hope this episode has been inspiring and beneficial to you. If you want help on your journey to financial freedom, reach out to us at veritasalaska.com. We'd love to sit down over a cup of coffee with you, either here in our office or virtually, and get to know you and your needs. And though this podcast is free of charge, we do ask that you please do us two quick favors. If you enjoyed the episode, give our pod a great rating on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you use, and also give us a follow on Instagram. We hope you have a wonderful day filled with gratitude and intentionality. God bless.